Welcome to the deep dive. Okay, so have you ever been in a meeting, right? And
Yeah.
someone says, let's circle back, or maybe we really need to move the needle on this. And you kind of pause and think, where did that phrase even come from? Or, what does it actually mean? It really feels like there's this whole other language, a sort of corporate code that we all just use, often without even thinking about it. Today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that, the unspoken language of the office. Our mission here is pretty simple. Give you a shortcut to understanding these, let's call it peculiar, phrases that just pop up everywhere in our professional lives. We're going to explore where they came from. Some origins are really surprising. We'll dissect what they really mean, the subtle nuances, and maybe uncover some of the psychological reasons they're so common. By the end, you'll not just get the lingo, but maybe how to use it better yourself. Or perhaps even more powerfully, when it's better to just ditch it for plain English.
Exactly. And what you'll find is that these idioms, they're actually much more than just, quirky sayings. They really offer a window into the culture of a workplace, how people collaborate, maybe even some of the underlying anxieties. So yeah, we'll break down the terms, look at the pitfalls, because they can hinder real communication and, crucially, give you some tools. Tools to become a more aware, more effective communicator at work. It's really about clarity, isn't it? And impact. And fundamentally connecting better with the people you work with.
All right, let's get into it then. Let's unpack this with maybe two of the most common ones for just getting aligned, staying connected. First up, the classic, touch base. I'm always curious about this one. Am I right thinking it's like literally from baseball?
You are absolutely spot on. Yeah, the image is direct from the game. A runner has to physically touch each base, make contact, right, to advance or score. That literal contact on the field, it translates pretty directly into the office, meaning,
Huh. Okay, so it's about making sure you're still connected, still in the game, kind of.
yeah,
And in the office, yeah, it means a brief check-in, a quick contact point. It's super versatile. You hear it all the time. Let's touch base next week about progress, or just wanted to touch base, see if you had questions. The appeal, I guess, is that it sounds informal, non-committal. Suggests it won't take long.
right. And that's exactly where the subtle trap lies. That vagueness, while it feels convenient, sometimes leaves the other person completely hanging. Like, what's the actual point of this touch base? How long is it going to be? Do I need to prep anything? That ambiguity, it can unintentionally create a bit of anxiety or just lead to really unproductive chats because no one knows what it's really about.
Okay, that makes sense. So how do we avoid that ambiguity
Yeah.
without, losing the convenience altogether? Is it just about adding more detail
Yeah.
or something else?
That's a really good point. I think it's partly about the intention behind it. If touch base is just a polite way of saying, I haven't figured out what I need from you yet, then yeah, adding context won't fix the root issue. But
Hmm?
if you do have a clear goal, then absolutely, adding specifics makes all the difference. Something like, let's touch base for, say, 15 minutes tomorrow to quickly run through the final numbers. That changes it instantly. It goes from vague suggestion to like a proper appointment with a clear purpose. It's really about respecting the other person's time and their
Yeah.
mental energy.
Yeah, okay.
Mm.
Respecting your time, I like that. So, building on that idea, connection, clarity, let's talk about on the same page. Now, that's a powerful metaphor, isn't it? For alignment, shared understanding. It really
Yeah.
brings up that image of everyone, reading the same script or the
Mhm.
same sheet music. It just means we all get the goals, the strategy, the expectations. You hear it from project managers a lot. Okay, before we move on, let's just make sure we're all on the same page about the timeline.
hmm And its origin is probably, well, most likely the classroom, actually. The teacher making sure all the students are literally looking at the same page in the textbook or following the lesson. In a business context, it's vital. It confirms consensus, helps prevent wasted effort, people doing the same work twice, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But there is a fine line. If you overuse it, it can start to feel a bit condescending.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're implying someone isn't paying attention, or maybe they're falling behind.
Right, I can definitely see that it loses its impact if you hear it constantly.
Right.
Or, yeah, it could feel like you're being subtly called out.
hmm
So for better communication, maybe think about alternatives. Things like, does everyone have a clear picture of the next steps?
Exactly. Or even, let's just quickly recap the key decisions, make sure we're all aligned. Same goal, much less potential downside.
Okay, so beyond connecting, the office loves talking about progress,
Yeah.
measurable results. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, with phrases that sound super tangible, like move the needle. That's a
Yeah.
big one.
It is. And that phrase comes straight from the physical movement of a needle on some kind of gauge or meter. Think about a car speedometer or a seismograph, or maybe a financial indicator. That needle moving signifies real, tangible change. So in business, it means making a significant, a noticeable impact on a specific metric, a key goal.
Gotcha. So like a marketing campaign that boosts sales dramatically, that has moved the needle. It's about visible, impactful results. Sounds pretty motivating, actually.
Oh, it absolutely is. And this idiom, it really took off in the 1980s, especially as companies got more focused on KPIs, key performance indicators. It's just such a concise way to communicate, look, we need measurable results here. It
Yeah.
definitely has power in focusing people on tangible outcomes.
I wonder about the flip side.
Hmm.
Can focusing too much on moving the needle create a culture that only values short-term wins? Like only the stuff you can measure right now.
Hmm.
I'm thinking about, say, an R&D team. Their work might not move the needle on this quarter's sales figures. Not at all.
Hmm.
But they could be working on something totally game-changing for 5 years down the road.
Hmm.
So if the leadership only cares about immediate needle movement, well, couldn't that accidentally stifle the very innovation that leads to long-term success? It creates this subtle pressure, right? Everyone's scrambling for the quick, visible wins, sometimes forgetting the deeper, slower, but maybe more important stuff.
You've absolutely hit on a critical tension there. It's definitely a double-edged sword. While seeing results is vital, yeah, overemphasizing immediate impact can discourage those crucial long-term projects, the foundational work. The real challenge for leaders is balancing that drive for visible progress with the patience needed for those bigger, more transformative changes, the ones that don't show up on the gauge right away.
Right, the balancing act.
Hmm.
Okay, and then related, maybe, we have drill down.
Hmm.
This one means, like, examining something in much more detail, right? Like a miner digging deeper. You hear it a lot with data, problem solving. Okay, let's drill down into these quarterly expenses, see where we can cut costs.
Yeah, its utility is pretty clear. It signals a need to get granular, look closely at the specifics, and while it's related to what we're doing here with our deep dive, drill down usually implies a more targeted exploration. You're looking within a larger set of data, often to find a root cause or diagnose a specific problem.
But the feel of it, drill down,
Yeah.
it can sometimes come across as a bit aggressive or maybe demanding.
It can, yeah, depending on the context and tone.
So for a softer approach, maybe more collaborative, you could just say, let's take a closer look at the details here, or can we explore the specifics of this issue a bit more?
Exactly, gets the same point across, just maybe without that implied intensity.
Okay, now shifting gears slightly, let's talk about the phrases that push us to innovate, break free from the usual way of doing things.
Hmm.
Think outside the box. Probably the most famous one for creativity, for unconventional problem solving. Well, I'll get the metaphor. The box is traditional thinking.
And the origin story is quite cool. It's often linked to that classic 9-dot puzzle.
Oh, right. The one where you have to connect all 9 dots with, what, 4 straight lines without lifting your pen?
That's the one. And the only way to solve it is by drawing lines that actually extend beyond the imaginary square the dots create. It's a really brilliant visual for breaking through perceived limits.
It is. But while the idea behind it is so valuable creativity, new perspectives, let's be honest, it's become such a massive cliche, hasn't it? Its impact feels diminished. It gets thrown around a lot, sometimes without any real substance behind it or without actually creating the conditions for it to happen.
Precisely. And just telling a team, okay, people, think outside the box, is rarely effective on its own. It's much better to provide concrete tools or techniques, like specific brainstorming methods, mind mapping, reverse brainstorming, whatever works. Or, even more importantly, foster an environment where people feel safe to experiment, to offer different views, where there's real psychological safety. Just demanding creativity without providing the space or tools. It's like, yeah, telling someone to fly but not giving them wings.
Yeah. Good analogy. Okay, and speaking of creative thinking, blue sky thinking takes it even further, maybe. This is about brainstorming without worrying about practical limits at all, right? The blue sky means endless possibilities. No idea is too wild, at least initially.
Exactly. This approach is super valuable, especially in the really early stages. Product development, strategic planning. It's about generating a massive range of potential ideas, futures, concepts, without immediately shutting them down with, but is it feasible? It allows for just pure, unconstrained creativity.
Which sounds great. It could lead to some really innovative breakthroughs. But I can also see the potential pitfall pretty clearly. If you don't manage it well, or if it's not followed up with some pragmatic thinking, it could just seem totally disconnected from reality. Maybe even a waste of time.
Oh, absolutely. You have to land those blue sky ideas eventually. That initial anything goes phase is crucial, but it must be followed by a structured way to bring those ideas back down to earth. Evaluate them, figure out what's actually workable. Otherwise, yeah, you end up with a bunch of exciting concepts on a whiteboard, but no real plan to make any of them happen.
Right. The follow-through is key. Which brings us perhaps to paradigm shift. This one sounds pretty weighty, and it has quite a specific origin, doesn't it? Thomas Kuhn, philosopher of science.
That's right. He coined it in his 1962 book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions. He used it to describe truly fundamental changes in scientific understanding. The classic example is the shift from thinking the Earth was the center of the universe, geocentric, to understanding the sun was heliocentric. That was a paradigm shift.
Okay, a massive fundamental change. So how did it end up in the office?
Well, in business, it got adopted to mean a major change in how something is thought about or done, often triggered by new tech or some kind of disruptive innovation. Think about the internet's impact on pretty much every business. That was arguably a genuine paradigm shift in commerce, communication, everything.
Yeah, okay, that fits. But here's the thing. It feels like it gets used for everything now.
Yeah.
Minor tweaks, small process improvements.
Huh.
Suddenly, they're all paradigm shifts.
Exactly. And that overuse just completely dilutes its original powerful meaning. It leads to eye rolling, cynicism. When every little change is a paradigm shift, then nothing truly is.
So the advice is use it sparingly. Reserve it for the really big revolutionary changes.
Precisely. For less monumental shifts, just be clear. Say, a significant change in our approach or a new way of thinking about this. It's more accurate and, frankly, more credible.
Makes sense. Okay, let's move to collaboration and efficiency. Teamwork makes the dream work, or so they say. These next phrases are all about working together, getting things done. First up, synergy. The idea that the combined effect is greater than the sum of its parts, right? Teams achieve more together than individuals could alone. 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing.
The word itself comes from the Greek synergos, which literally means working together. So in theory, it describes a really powerful collaborative outcome.
And you hear it constantly in things like mergers and acquisitions. The justification is always, oh, the synergy will make the combined company way more valuable.
Yeah.
But I think we can both agree it's become one of the quintessential, vague, overused buzzwords, hasn't it?
Absolutely. It sounds important, it sounds strategic, but often, what does it actually mean in practice? It's often just thrown out there.
Yeah.
The problem isn't the concept of synergy collaboration yielding better results is powerful. The problem is using the word as a substitute for specifics. Instead of just saying, we need more synergy, it's so much better to spell out the how and the what. Like, by combining marketing's customer insights with engineering's technical expertise, we believe we can create a product that's both highly innovative and perfectly meets market needs. That describes the synergy clearly.
Yes. Show, don't just tell. Okay, next. Low-hanging fruit, another classic. A metaphor for the easy wins, right? The tasks or opportunities that are quickest and easiest to grab, like fruit on the lower branches. Businesses love these for showing quick progress, building momentum.
Yeah, and the phrase itself might date back to the 17th century, just the literal reference to picking fruit. It really speaks to that very human desire for, seeing results quickly, getting that sense of accomplishment.
And it's not a bad strategy. Grabbing those easy wins can be great for morale, demonstrating progress, getting people on board initially. It has its place. But the danger is focusing only on the low-hanging fruit, right? You can end up neglecting the harder, more complex, maybe ultimately more valuable goals, the fruit higher up the tree.
Exactly.
I actually remember a project where the team spent weeks just picking off all the easy, small fixes, the low-hanging fruit. And yeah, everyone felt super productive, lots of boxes ticked. But months later, we realized we'd completely ignored the really difficult underlying architectural problem that was causing most of the issues in the first place.
Oh, wow.
It's like we were busy tidying the kitchen, making it look good, while the roof was still leaking significantly. It really drove home that point about balance.
That's a perfect illustration of the potential trap. It's not that low-hanging fruit is bad, it's about being strategic. Knowing when to pick it, maybe for quick momentum, but making absolutely sure it doesn't distract from tackling the bigger, tougher challenges that are essential for real long-term growth.
Right. Don't let the easy stuff stop you from climbing higher. Okay, last one in this section. Circle back. Oh boy, this one is everywhere. It means simply, let's return to this topic later, usually used to defer a discussion. Maybe you need more info. Maybe the current conversation isn't going anywhere useful. You hear, that's an interesting point, but maybe let's circle back to that after we've seen the budget figures.
Hmm. And its origin might be literal circling back to a starting point, but it also apparently has roots in military tactics. Units might circle back to regroup or re-engage from a different angle. Its appeal in the office is that non-committal quality. It lets you postpone something without just shutting it down completely. It implies you'll revisit it.
But implies is the key word there, isn't it? That's where the criticism comes in. It can feel really vague, maybe even evasive, like you're just kicking a can down the road, avoiding a decision, possibly forever. You leave the meeting wondering, will we ever actually circle back to this?
Exactly. That uncertainty can be frustrating. So to avoid that ambiguity and the potential annoyance, it's just much, much better to be specific. If you say circle back, define the circle. Say when and how. Okay, good point. I need to check those numbers. I'll schedule a quick 10-minute follow-up for tomorrow morning specifically to address this. Or let's add that as a specific agenda item for next week's team meeting. That turns it from an indefinite delay into a concrete action. Much better.
Definitely. Okay, so we've unpacked a lot of these phrases. This raises the bigger question. Why? Why do these things spread like wildfire in offices? It can't just be habit, right? You suggested there are deeper psychological, maybe sociological reasons.
Absolutely. It's not just random. One of the main drivers is that jargon, including these office idioms, functions as a powerful signal of belonging. Using the specialized language, it shows you're in the know. You're part of the tribe. I speak your language, therefore I belong here.
Oh,
This can be really attractive, especially for people new to a company or a team. They want to fit in, show they understand the culture. It's a way to signal competence quickly.
that makes a lot of sense from the individual's point of view. But the flip side is pretty stark, isn't it? It's inherently exclusionary. If you don't know the lingo, maybe you're a new hire from a different industry, a different cultural background, maybe not a native English speaker. It can immediately make you feel alienated, confused, maybe even inadequate.
Precisely.
Imagine trying to explain a complex strategy using terms like synergy, move the needle, drill down to someone completely unfamiliar with them. You're not clarifying, you're actually building a wall.
A communication barrier, exactly. And beyond belonging, there's another factor. Jargon can sometimes feel like a cognitive shortcut, a shorthand. For people who do understand it fluently, these idioms can seem to convey complex ideas pretty quickly and efficiently.
Yeah, can being the operative word. Because the danger, as we've seen, is that potential for imprecision. Massive imprecision sometimes. Phrases like synergy or think outside the box. And they're often so incredibly vague, they can mean different things to different people, which leads straight to confusion, lack of clarity, people working towards different goals without even realizing it. I've even seen some research suggesting that using overly vague language can actually make a speaker seem less trustworthy, like they're hiding something, or maybe they don't fully understand it themselves.
That's fascinating, and it makes intuitive sense. Now, if we zoom out a bit, look at the history. The real explosion of corporate jargon seems to trace back to the post-World War II era. That was a time of huge corporate growth, globalization, new management theories emerging, fields like organizational psychology developing.
Right. And since then, it feels like it's just been fueled continuously, hasn't it? By business schools, by management consultants, by the endless stream of business books and articles. They're constantly coining new buzzwords, new acronyms. It feels like this perpetually shifting linguistic landscape. Sometimes it's exhausting just keeping up. What was cutting edge last year is maybe cringeworthy today.
It is a constantly evolving thing, yeah.
Okay, so wrapping this all together, what does this mean for you listening right now? Given that these idioms are, this double-edged sword, how do you navigate all this effectively? How do you become that clearer, more impactful communicator we talked about? I think a huge takeaway has to be always, always know your audience. Why? Because this jargon, it might work okay within your immediate team who all get it, but step outside that. Talk to clients, new hires, people from other departments, other cultures. Using heavy jargon can just create static. If your goal is real connection, shared understanding, not just making noise, you have to adapt your language.
Couldn't agree more. And connected to that is the need to be specific. Think of vague jargon, almost like a placeholder in your communication. It sounds like you're saying something meaningful, but often you're not really. To genuinely move the needle, you first have to define what the needle is, right? What's the specific metric, and what does movement mean? What's the target? Clarity isn't just like a nice to have. It's the absolute foundation of accountability, of actual measurable success.
And for anyone in a leadership position, or really anyone who cares about the team dynamic, It's vital to actively foster an inclusive environment.
Mm.
That means being conscious of the language you use, making communication accessible, and maybe gently encouraging others to do the same. And if you do slip into using an idiom, just be ready to quickly explain it in simple terms. Make sure everyone is genuinely, truly on the same page, no assumptions.
Absolutely. And another really important point, maybe counterintuitive for some, is don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you hear a term, an idiom, a piece of jargon you don't understand, just ask. Sorry, could you quickly explain what you mean by synergy in this context? It's so much better to admit you don't know and get clarity than to just nod along, pretend you understand, and then risk making a mistake or going off in the wrong direction. Asking shows confidence, actually, confidence in your desire to truly understand.
That's such a good point. It takes courage sometimes, but it's crucial. And finally, maybe the most powerful takeaway of all, embrace the power of plain language. Seriously. In this world absolutely saturated with buzzwords and jargon, clear, simple, direct communication stands out. It's becoming a rare skill, and it's incredibly powerful. Warren Buffett has great advice on this, doesn't he? He says, to write as if you're talking to an intelligent person who just doesn't happen to be a specialist in your specific field. That approach doesn't just make your message clearer and more effective for everyone. It builds respect. It builds trust. It just cuts through all the noise.
Beautifully put. Because ultimately, these office idioms, they're more than just words, aren't they? They really are a reflection, a window into the culture, the values, maybe even the hidden anxieties of the modern workplace. They show our desire for connection, our sometimes obsessive focus on progress, our constant quest for the next big thing, for innovation.
And by understanding where they come from, what
Mm.
they really mean, and maybe the motivations behind their use,
Yeah.
well, that empowers you and helps you become a more conscious communicator, a more effective one. It's not just about knowing what words to use, it's knowing how to use language to create genuine understanding,
Yeah.
real collaboration.
Exactly. And by learning to use these terms intentionally, knowing when they might actually be useful shorthand with the right audience, but also knowing when to deliberately set them aside in favor of simple clarity, that's how you can really transform your professional interactions and help foster an environment where people actually understand each other and where teamwork can genuinely flourish.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider as you go about your day. What unspoken language might you be using, maybe without even realizing it, in your emails, in your meetings? And how could just a little bit more clarity, a bit more plain language, start to shift your own professional impact, maybe even starting today? Thank you for taking this deep dive with us.